Hello, everybody. This is Charles Anderson. I'm just a guy from Goodwill, Oklahoma, and I've got a really great game idea. It is September 3rd, 2013, and I am going to be covering my nav modes concepts. I'm already loading up the storybook concepts. Got to keep chugging along here. All right, so let's take a look at my navigational modes. Now, before I go too much more into this, my overall map system, it's going to be a square map. That's what's been used in video games for a long time. And for this square map, it's going to be tiles. However, because my game is ultimately going to be a 3D game, all these 2D tiles, they're just going to be the 3D distorted into 2D shapes. I believe a game that did this before was like Fez for these type modes. And it's not going to have Fez's look. I'm going to try for the smooth organic shapes that are found like in the Super Mario series, where they have blocks there too, but they round off the edges, make it look a little bit smoother. But it's still, square based. Now, let's see here. So we got that map, and now because I'm going to have an actual world, I'm going to take it and make it a cube. So it's going to have 6 sides, so 6 maps total, and they're going to be based off of these blocks, these voxels, which is a volumetric pixel, if you want, the smallest unit of my game as far as how I'm going to store it in memory. So it should be a pretty efficient design. Now, another game that went with it is Minecraft, and this is just a picture of Minecraft where I just scribbled smoother shapes onto it, and where it's going to different on, because this is the first-person mode right here, but you'll notice I have these dashed lines, and I'll go more into that on design details. But yeah, here's where the player's interacting, and these are the voxels, the boxes that everybody sees. This will be part of the customizing for later games, but right now, just boxes. Once you get past this line, I'm not even going to be rendering as roughly, because one of the things I saw was you do boxes all the way out, and it gets pretty inefficient. And my machine won't be able to handle that, so I'm going to take some pages from earlier games. Once it gets to this line, it's not going to be boxes anymore. It's just going to be the voxels. So it's going to be, each box just becomes a point that a geometric strip, is going to be done on. I'm going to do a little artistic blur, make it seem like, it's far off in the distance, so, it's going to be a little bit blurry. Back here, I'm just going to 2D that, it's going to like render maybe once every, 10, 20 seconds, and that's where you take this and just give it a generic shape, and it's just slapped onto the skybox, or maybe it's separate from the skybox, but and then of course ultimately there will be the skybox. So I'm going to save on memory constraints by only worrying about what I need to make pretty up here in the front, give us some suggestions, give some really vague suggestions, and then the rest of the environment. So I'm going to cheat like all get out as far as from the programmer standpoint, presenting a world. However, I'm going to do it with some style, make it look great. All right, so this box system, I'll be able to take like, let me just, yeah, there we go. Auto adjust. No, adjust exposure. There we go. Let's show you some of the lines that really don't show up. All right. And maybe bring up the contrast a little bit so it's not. Anyway, you'll see that I've got the gridded out here. These are voxels. I just, as a programmer, have to make sure that it will come out right, and your character will be here. It's only going to take a strip out of this world. Maybe it'll create an arbitrary strip, but for the 2D section, we're only worried about this one 2D area. Now you'll notice that there's something here behind. It's part of the background. However, these blocks here are attached in 3D to this thing back here in the background, and this thing in the background is just going to be shaded in as a suggestion. But these guys are attached to this. Now, farther back, I'm using my cheat, this is past that line. You'll see the dotted line here. So it's only rendered like, maybe once every few seconds, and then, it's scrolling at a different speed, so you have a multi-scroll background, and it's actually the world, as you're moving from point A to point B, but, jumping through there. If the nav mode is with the battle mode, there will be a lot more monsters because you're fighting monsters as you go. If the battle mode is separate from the nav mode, there are not going to be as many monsters because obviously battles will be how you're earning your rewards and stuff as you go through this 2D stage. Now here's another 2D stage, and this is the top down. All I have to do is just change the camera angle and flatten everything down. Now you'll notice that these edges look a little weird. Well, one of the tricks that I'm going to use is the bottom Z level that shows up, it's going to be stretched out a little bit to where it's actually bigger than the layer right above it. So, just the boxes keep getting smaller as you come up, and you have what is used in a lot of 2D games for their tiling. So I'm going to mimic that in code for that. And then, of course, same thing with the monsters. If nav and battle mode are the same thing, then there's going to be more monsters. If it's separate, there's going to be less monsters because your battles are going to happen completely different than the way that it's designed. But you just run in a direction and you get from point A to point B that way. So that's the whole navigation. There we are. All right. So that's the whole navigation mode concept. But yeah, we're going to have orthogonal. For those of you who aren't familiar with 3D programming, there's two types of mode. There's your Quake. There's your degrees of viewing that makes it look 3D because everything in the background is smaller as you go farther away from the camera, and things that are closer they take up more space. But in orthogonal view, everything is the same size. Because it doesn't have a difference between the front plane and the back plane. I'll get more into that detail. But the thing that you remember is, like Fez, like some other games, it looks 2D because everything is just the same size. That is an orthogonal view. In a lot of these like Blender, yeah, Blender has an orthogonal view. If you look at something, it's the same size, even far to the distance, and it's just as big as if it was like way up close. It's usually best when doing unit-based stuff like this. And this is an orthogonal view too. However, it's slightly distorted, but I'm coding that in, that distortion. If anything, the back plane of the camera is larger than the front plane, which is completely opposite to how people view the world. Go figure. So there we go. Oh, and of course, first-person mode, I already went over that. Other things like the camera will flip up to the top and zoom like way out, and then you got your Dragon Warrior, the Japanese RPG, Final Fantasy, old school, like Nintendo and Super Nintendo era, old school type map, and like whole chunks of this landscape will be represented as like the forest tile, the grass tile, the mountain tiles that you can't easily traverse. And I think that pretty much wraps it up for this. All right, later, y'all. Boop. And